incredible performance by Miles VR. One of those performances that we will remember fondly, because a performance like that from a goalkeeper is what Roma always needed, and perhaps got too rarely in their history from a goalkeeper. So I want to thank everybody who's joining me here tonight so late at night, because it's 12:30 in Italian time. So but I know that the excitement is there. I am going to be reading all of the comments in the chat, so let's try to be civilized, but I'm very interested to hear your thoughts, your impressions. Who was the man of the match? Your thoughts about how Roma managed to get this win out of their backside, really, because at some point it almost seemed like it was not going to be that night. I know that some of our patrons in the Roma Press patron group chat were worried that this was going to be another Budapest. So, but first of all, to all those that are just joining me for the first time, thank you so much for being here. This is the Roma Press channel. This is where you can find all of the video episodes of the Roma Press podcast, and also live streams like this one. So if you haven't already subscribed, click the like button. So if you haven't liked this video, please do so now so more people can join in. And if you would like to support the channel or the website, you can always go to patreon.com/Roma Press, and you can become a patron, and that helps us greatly. So let's get into it, guys. Very excited to see what people are thinking. De Rossi is showing ownership, how important it is to employ legends. Zanetti, Nedved, Ibra, Maldini, now called Totti, says Rocco. Well, we will see that, but obviously it's so beautiful to see De Rossi, perhaps the biggest fan of them all, because Totti is legend, Totti is Roma, but De Rossi is one of us. De Rossi is the guy from the block. De Rossi is the guy who disguises himself and goes to the stadium to attend games, and to see him there near the end, with these almost bloodshot eyes, very emotional, just fantastic. Because if you think about where he was 20 years ago and where he is now, this is a fairy tale. And obviously we have to consider it's just the start. There's nothing but, as De Rossi said just a few minutes ago to Sky Sport, it's wonderful for his time as a Roma coach to begin this way with this much enthusiasm. And if we consider the difficult moment Roma were in when De Rossi arrived, and the feeling of just life once again returning, into this club, and all of us here sitting and still reeling from this experience, that's a huge chunk of it is because of De Rossi, because of De Rossi's presence. So, hello, Jay Macklin, Andy, ciao ragazzi. We got Amazing Vincent, we got Bumblebee Tunes. Grazie, Roma. Vanquishing the Feyenoord salt mine yet again. Yes, yet again. It's a tradition by now. I think Arne Slot will just continue to be employed by Feyenoord with the hopes of one day, someday, over the rainbow, beating Roma. Well, it was not meant to be tonight, so we will see what else. Is VR man of the match? Is there a debate? Is VR? Absolutely, guys. And it's, I asked it because it's so important to to actually realize how crucial a goalkeeper can be. Not a miracle worker, a goalkeeper. Okay, because what Zviar does tonight is what a good goalkeeper does when called upon. And we've become unaccustomed to this. We've grown very, very unaccustomed to the sight of a goalkeeper who does his job. That was the case for Rui Patricio in his first year, where exactly you go into the Conference League final and Rui Patricio is amazing, but he does what a good goalkeeper does in a final. And tonight, Sviar does what a good goalkeeper does in order for his team to advance. to the next round of the Europa League. So VR is my god, and I forgive all of Zaleski's sins from today. I was sure I was sure he was not mentally able to score that penalty. Oh, absolutely. After the nightmare of a performance that he'd had and all the chances that he'd wasted, this was, you have those moments where you think to yourself, well, how bad can it get? And in my mind, I could already picture Zaleski with his hands over his face, um, probably a future far away from the club. But that because the performance from him was disastrous. The penalty was excellent, and I'm glad. I'm glad for him because again, he like De Rossi, Zaleski's a kid from the block. How can you? This would have ruined him. I'm not going to say that his his match and his recent performances have been redeemed by this, but we're close. Paredes was great. Ndika was solid. Ndika, huge surprise to see him out there. Let's hope that Diego Llorente is going to be okay. And it's a great sight to see Ndika be so ready, so available, so quickly. I really think that with him back on the pitch more consistently now, given what we had seen from him before AFCON, he can solve a lot of problems. And Paredes continues his streak of excellent performances where he is not afraid to become the player for Roma. Just like tonight, he walks up and takes that penalty. He's been vital for Roma's success recently. Paredes, just as much as anybody else who scored more than him, he's very, very important to what Roma are doing under Daniele De Rossi. I thought El Shaarawy and Spina should have been taken off sooner. Angelino looked like a firecracker when he came on. Elsha and Spina looked subdued, and it's not the first time. But unfortunately, if you see the recurring pattern, Spinazzola, El Shaarawy, Zaleski, everybody who plays there on the left, except for Angelino, is leaves much to be desired. Let's just put it that way. So Roma needs a good center back, right back, box to box midfielder. Okay, we're already, tonight is great, but we already seem to be past that and heading into the summer transfer. No, guys, let's chill out and let's think about what we witnessed tonight. Could Roma have handled it better? I think from a physical point of view, Roma make you reconsider, the the level of preparation that goes into preseason. um I think tonight also shows that the mirage of a team that was completely out of it by match day 3, remember when they were completely gassed against Milan on match day 3, um it's still visible tonight. You head into overtime, and the one thing that we are most worried about is whether they will last physically. Um, De Rossi pointed out that they made an incredible sprint team effort at the 120th minute. So, but he realizes that there is still a lot to work on. In his post-match reaction, De Rossi emphasized, to my surprise, actually, that he still needs to work on the mental aspect also of the game, which is weird because we'd expect this team, the team that has gone through Europe numerous times over the last 2 years, has won a trophy and reached the Europa League final, that mentally the team, at least they would have that on lock. But De Rossi, one of the first things that he pointed out in his interview with Sky Sport just a few minutes ago was that um, there are players that he needs to work on individually for their mental. Tonight, Lukaku is the worst throwback to the Lukaku that we saw last year against Manchester City with the Inter, and also the Lukaku that would vanish from the pitch under Antonio Conte, which is arguably the best version of Lukaku that we saw. Tonight, Lukaku was extremely detrimental. If there is one negative in tonight's brilliant victory and very satisfying result, is Romelu Lukaku, who is not giving you the answers you're hoping to get from him. De Rossi is good manager, but we need someone like Conte to rebuild. Okay, God, I try to tell everybody live in the moment. I try to tell myself that because honestly, if you're a Roma fan, that's the only thing you can do is live in the moment. Right now, the moment is good. Okay, right now it's. I understand if it was January and we are still gloomy and sad, fine, but it we're in February, everything seems to be going good enough. De Rossi seems to have a grip on the situation. So let's see where this goes, okay? Because we have already reports that the Friedkins are satisfied with what De Rossi is doing, and I would imagine tonight's victory was very important because it helps you climb in the UEFA rankings. It helps you surpass Manchester United. So you are not 10th anymore in the rankings. You are ninth, and it's huge. It's huge for what it can do for the club's future. Um, and hopefully Roma and hopefully also the other Italian teams, including yes, you know who, um, continue to do well because you want you want an easier access to the Champions League, and top five would be fantastic. I'm hoping that penalty from Zaleski boosts his confidence because he was shocking today. He was absolutely shocking. I agree. For me, him and Lukaku, it was like Roma were missing two players. Actually, not missing because they were making things worse. I was actually praying at some point that Tammy Abraham, with his bandaged knee, would come on because honestly, uh, if I compare this big game for Lukaku or any big game for Lukaku and the big games that I saw Tammy Abraham perform in, Tammy Abraham compared to Lukaku is a big time player. The Lukaku tonight is the most insecure attacker one could possibly see in a game of this magnitude. Um, I would like to see Baldanzi and Dybala overlap some minutes. I think that's the plan eventually. Tonight the stage was so bright. Um, I was hesitant to see Baldanzi perform, but we'll see how De Rossi plans to incorporate it. Obviously, he noted that Baldanzi is the future option for Roma. That Baldanzi is an important signing, but he's an important signing for the future with the plan of making him a starter. Not now, next season, perhaps. What happens with Dybala, we shall see. Tonight I think was a positive signal. It was a positive signal for me to see Houssem Aouar step in and take that penalty. Houssem Aouar, the guy whom we've barely seen in God knows how long, was out there scoring a very, very important penalty. Now, that is a player that I want to see more of with De Rossi. That is a player also that I believe he can actually give you something extra if you take a chance on him. So there's options, and I think De Rossi is fully aware of it. Tonight was never going to be a match where we experiment, where we try things out. That was Frosinone, and we know how that worked out. It was a tough match, but the options are there, and De Rossi knows it. This VR is the prime example of it. A player that De Rossi likes in training, thinks, you know what, I'm going to give him the start in this game against Feyenoord in the first leg. He does well. He gives him another start. And now the way De Rossi has been speaking of his VR, it's as if he's speaking about Roma's starting goalkeeper. So I would not be surprised if Rui Patricio from now on is sort of the mentoring figure in all of this. Rui Patricio, 36 years old, on his way out of the club as a free agent by the end of the season. So I do not see him starting for Roma anymore now, especially not after this performance from Zviar. Which, guys, I think if we make a top five of performances by Roma goalkeepers, I think it's Alisson. In recent years, Alisson against Atletico Madrid and Zviar tonight. Absolutely. And then top three, I think Rui Patricio in the Conference League final, he deserves it. Um, if the team continues these performances, I see no reason to let Daniele De Rossi go. And I see more and more people sort of make this claim, and Italian media also are starting to mention this. Um, but I like that Daniele De Rossi is not pushing anything, and I like that there is no feeling. I don't have the feeling that anybody's rushing to any conclusion. Obviously, the fact that Roma are yet to appoint a sporting director says a lot. It means that there's still a lack of structure. So probably the feeling is, let's see how De Rossi does. Let's take it easy. 6-month contract, and then we can get together and discuss. But until that sporting director is not secured, it's going to be all quiet. Um, Pellegrini was incredible, absolutely, and he deserves the spotlight. Because he has really turned it on, and I'm glad that it's working out for him, because he is a player who needs these kinds of nights in order to come back to life. Because the Pellegrini that we saw over the past year and a half was not the Pellegrini that we knew from Mourinho's first season, Fonseca's second season. The Pellegrini that is a game changer, and this man right now for this team, at least for this version of Roma, in this moment in time, for this manager, is a game changer. Absolutely, the goal and the pass to Cristante were insane, and I feel his contributions were forgotten a bit because of how much happened after he came off. Uh, Pellegrini, again, crucial. Even in that match against Frosinone, the game changes entirely with him on the pitch. Ciao, Andy. Kevin, our good friend Kevin, fantastic win. When do you think is the last time we had a goalkeeping performances like this in a single game? Is it really Alisson? Kevin, all I can think of is Rui Patricio against conference in the Conference League final, which I do not think comes close to this, and then Alisson, definitely Alisson for the difficulty, for the opponent, for the pressure that was on him. Definitely Alisson. So we're talking about 2018. So yeah, 6 years. 6 years we've been waiting for a performance like Miles VR's tonight. So I'm glad it came through. I'm glad it happened. Hi everybody. Daniele De Rossi is the best place. He isn't the best place he could be, says Vladimiro. Can you imagine the motivation to do well with Roma? Anyway, we can still sing La Roma si el Feyenoord. Um, yeah, I think for De Rossi this is a dream position, because I do not actually think that right now there is a lot of pressure on him, unlike at Spal, where the situation was difficult from the get go, and also first time experience. This one is a big experience for him. It's a big job. Obviously, there are objectives involved, sure, but he's Daniele De Rossi, and this is Roma, so the expectations are naturally alleviated from his shoulders. I would imagine that's how I interpreted this appointment, or at least how it's going so far. The energy between him, the fans, the players, it's sort of it just works. It works, guys. I'm really happy with everybody attending. So please keep liking this video so that more people can join us. Um, Vincent, do you think Al Sharawi is going to take the step we thought he would do when he arrived to Roma 3 years ago, and now maintain his position in starting 11? Well, I do not think that Al Sharawi is going to maintain his starting 11 because of the performances that he's given. I actually think that Al Sharawi is going to maintain his place in the team's lineup, because there's really no other choice in that position right now. So I do think that eventually De Rossi will try to experiment, because De Rossi himself, he hinted at the fact that Al Sharawi used to be a very up and down player. Now he's less of an up and down player. He's still extremely inconsistent and can be invisible at times. So, where are you from, man? It's difficult to say. I'm Italian, but also Polish, and lived a bit everywhere. So, Next week, I'm back in Spain, guys. So uh, back to the sunshine. I felt you could see De Rossi's lack of experience tonight. He started his best 11 with no players to put in as a plan B that would make an actual difference. Well, Marco, but think about it. Wouldn't you put your best players in a match like this? Honestly, the only one I could question was Al Sharawi being there. I would have maybe changed him, maybe given Asmoon more space. But I do not think in a match of this magnitude, the return leg of the playoffs with this kind of crowd against this very opponent, you want the players that are most familiar. I mean, you want everybody who was on last year's squad and hopefully the year before that. So I don't know. I think that maybe the substitutions came in late. That's definitely I'll give you that. There were some substitutions that were a bit of a head scratcher, but again, I want to highlight. I'm glad that Hussein Mouar saw the light of day because if you manage to unlock him as a player, we're not talking about Renato Sanchez, who's here on loan. We're talking about Hussein Mouar, who's here on a permanent deal, came in as a free agent, and I think has still a whole bag of tricks that we are yet to discover. It didn't work out with Mourinho. Perhaps it can work out with Daniele De Rossi. Ciao, Andy. The most obvious question to me is what does this mean for De Rossi's future? Also, how do you feel about his substitutions? Why sub off Lorenzo when he's feeling it in a game like this? I think with Lorenzo, it's always a question of how he feels physically. Pellegrini is very fragile. You don't want him to overplay. We saw what happened last year when remember there was that constant cycle of games where Pellegrini would play through an injury, and that backfired. That backfired big time for Roma. So hopefully that's not the case anymore. Hopefully Daniele De Rossi has a good look at Pellegrini's injury history, and they have a good communication. And if he comes off in a match of this importance in front of his home crowd, it means Roma want to preserve him. They don't want to risk him. Sometimes you have to make these decisions. But what does it mean for De Rossi's future? I do not think they. I mean, I think honestly, this just gives him more time. It gives him more time and puts him in a more favorable light for the Friedkins. But I think the ownership will make its considerations regardless of what De Rossi does. And yet, at the same time, like we said at the end of the January transfer window, there are things that De Rossi says and what this club does right now with him as the head coach that make you think maybe there is a plan for him to stay beyond these 6 months, right? So maybe there is something in the water there. There is no way I'm rooting for Lazio to do well. I hope all the other Italian teams do well and secure that fifth Champions League spot. Well, it would be amazing, amazing, Vincent, if that was the case. Yeah, main story is VR making himself a club hero. It's funny because we have this idea of VR being a kid. The guy is 25, obviously for a goalkeeper that's very young still, but it's funny. It's funny how these things work out. I think I'm happy for him because um, I, I I don't like when a goalkeeper is 100% going to start every game just because of it. And that was the case for Rui Patricio. I mean, you could not explain why he was starting. And it's pretty impressive how De Rossi came in. First thing they asked him in the press conference was, "Who's the starting goalkeeper?" And he says, "Well, for now it's Rui Patricio because he's experienced, but we'll see how it changes going forward." And that was the case. One goalkeeper, one player actually, because it should be like that. One player doesn't deliver, the other one does. Okay, you start the other one. You start the one who deserves the minutes. It's sad because we all want to see Bove in the starting 11, but midfield's playing too well. Well, Bove will climb its way there. I do believe that, and also that's nice though. You have to you have to be happy with the fact that you have those options. Um, Absolutely, I agree. More likes, guys. If you haven't liked this live stream, please click like so more people can see it. If not now, later on, it really helps. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, this is where you can find all the Roma related content that we produce, including our podcast, which is the Roma Press podcast, and it's available on all platforms. So if you haven't subscribed, click the subscribe button, click on the link below. You'll find also the link to our Patreon if you would like to support the show and the website. Yeah, I really hope Llorente is going to have a quick recovery. Alisson is in its own tier, says Roman. As VR can reach the same level as Chelsea. Oh, absolutely, Alisson. I mean, there's nobody that gets. I get emotional when I talk about Alisson because I remember the nights that Alisson single-handedly gave me hope for this team. So Alisson, I agree with you. Alisson is top one forever. But if we look at individual performances for a goalkeeper, Zviar's performance tonight, in his confidence, in the fact that had he wanted to, he could have saved that third penalty, right? He's the one that says it right after the match. He said, "I didn't feel any pressure. I actually knew where the ball was going to go. I could have saved three." It almost felt like this guy lived for that moment, which is bizarre again because last year I think Zviar had like 8 appearances in total, and most of them came near the end when Roma just dropped their focus in the league. So he was basically playing, scrappy minutes. Um, Hey, Andy, on a scale of 1 to 10, how severe was the cardiac arrest you suffered in tonight's game? It was so nerve wracking, but the result made it worth. I think after Budapest, man, after Budapest, honestly, there's just nothing that I think can move me, um, or rather, never say never, right? Andy, do you know if Serie A teams are in the top two performing leagues right now? Really need that fifth Champions League spot. Can't have it go to England, especially. No, Italy and Germany are the top two performing teams right now. So we're in a good position, and hence the need to support Lazio. Unfortunately, um, yeah. Italy and Germany are the top two spots for for Champions League, and for the fifth spot. Somehow we have to play Bodo this season. God no, God no. Andy, did you want to see Renato tonight? I was intrigued when I saw him warming up. Was happy to see our play, like you said. Do you believe this was a game we should have closed out before pens? I think this was a game that, I mean, you should have, but it was pretty even. There were, I mean, questionable calls left and right. For me, this is a game that if you do not have the physicality and the stamina for those 90 minutes, then you're never going to close it. And that was the case tonight. I mean, Roma dragged themselves into that extra time because they didn't have it in them, because they were running out of gas. And that is something that must be worked on. I don't care what they do in preseason this summer, whether they fly to Korea, whether they fly to Portugal, I don't care. But something has to change because it's not normal that the majority of these guys are dead by minute 70. If you think about what we witnessed last year against Feyenoord, Nemanja Matic, 34-year-old Matic, was the one who had the most energy out of the whole team. But Renato Sanchez, well, Renato Sanchez was actually supposed to come on. What was it? Recently, he was supposed to, but De Rossi mentioned it a couple of times that he intended to have him play. Listen, I wouldn't mind if Awar gets Sanchez minutes. Okay, one is on loan, and I think Sanchez was supposed to complete 55% of all appearances in order to for Roma to trigger the obligation in his contract. Well, that is not going to happen. Okay, he's not going to feature in 55% of all appearances. So forget about it. That's so there goes those minutes. Hussein Aouar must be given a chance. I will refuse to watch Roma play if, well, maybe not because that's too drastic, but I really do not want the club to go into a direction where they just dismiss a player of Aouar's quality, because I do believe that he has really important attributes for this team and for Daniele De Rossi's way of playing. I think he'd be a good match in a midfield, say with Eduardo Bove and Lorenzo Pellegrini as well. I think that would be a cool setup. If not, then with Paredes and Pellegrini alongside him. Andy drinking straight tequila, impressive. Yes, absolutely. This is to you guys. Cheers. Yeah, 100% Zaleski was going to miss. You're not the first one, Paul. I think we've had like three comments saying that there was this feeling that Zaleski's night was going to be a tragic one. Thank God it did not happen, because even for the player himself, I mean, that it would just destroy you. There would be no coming back from missing a penalty after that performance. Um, what were your thoughts on Feyenoord's goal? I was shocked it wasn't called back, but I can't tell if I'm overreacting or not. Listen, I think a tonight was tonight's referee the one from the Borussia Mönchengladbach game from a couple of years back with Fonseca. Was he the one? Is he that asshole? Because that explains a lot of things. There were some major mistakes tonight, especially with the yellow cards. I did not think it was a good display. I actually think, I mean, tonight, honestly, was just for the ambience, that just for the atmosphere. That's the game right there. The atmosphere of the Olimpico is the game. Everything else sort of fades into the background, thank God, because of the win. But it really was unbelievable to feel 67,000 people. It broke the club's record, which was set last year by over 400 tickets. I'm still amazed. I'm still amazed, and I'm glad it's happening, because a lot of people thought, well, with Mourinho gone, the support, and yet it did not. And yet the support is still there. The Olimpico was amazing. The Olimpico is a huge contributor to Roma's success, both in the league and in Europe. In Europe, especially, you can just feel just the opponent tenses up automatically the moment they step onto the pitch, no matter who they are. There is a different energy to them as soon as they feel the crowd roar. It's unbelievable. So I'm glad also that this happened, that the return leg was here, because for De Rossi especially, this is an important message, and it's always wonderful to have these fairy tale scenarios. Last season, unfortunately, the fairy tale scenario did not come in the form of Roma winning the Europa League, but tonight we can get a bit of that European taste back, right? So I'm really glad with how it turned out. And Sviar, obviously, there will be a lot of articles from now on. I'm sure that tomorrow there will be like at least 3 articles in the Italian media saying that Roma will be betting on Sviar long term just because of this performance. I don't know if that's the case. I do think that Roma will be facing extreme financial constraints due to financial fair play, and some considerations will have to be made with regards to the type of investment that you want to do. And we know fully well that a good goalkeeper, at least in Serie A, will cost you a minimum of 20 million euros, not less than Baldanzi. It will cost a goalkeeper, say like Di Gregorio, even Vladimiro Falcone, will cost you 20 million minimum. Roma will have to analyze their situation and come to the conclusion: what do we do? Sviar, obviously, keeping Sviar, and if this continues to be Sviar's form, would be the most logical and cheaper solution. Um, I'm so happy we didn't have defenders scoring penalties that were flashbacks from Budapest. Absolutely. I could already see that whole lineup of Evan Dika and Gianluca Mancini stepping out and taking penalties just to shock us, to send us into PTSD. My stomach turns whenever Cristante gets the ball in the final third because I know he's losing it. Oh, come on, Joseph. Don't be so harsh on him. Roma's tempo for the first 30 minutes brought me back to Rudy Garcia's days when Roma was an attack first team, quick and forward passing. And Rocco, that's exactly what Daniele De Rossi said tonight ahead of the game. He said, "We are a team that wants to attack the opponent. We know that," and he openly admitted he was very aware of the fact that Roma would not be able to keep possession for long, and that there would be moments where Feyenoord, a team that is capable themselves of playing the ball from the back, would put Roma in difficulty. But the mentality of De Rossi right now is get at the opponent, get a goal, get a result first, and then worry about the defending later. Now, you have to balance things out. You cannot take additional risks. So that's something that De Rossi and the team will continue to work on. But I think there's been a 180. There's been a 180 in the mentality in how to approach these games. Definitely. How do you feel about Lukaku currently? Yeah, I feel his history has fully gotten to him, and he crushes himself with all the pressure he has on him, as well as the pressure he puts himself. I mean, you look at what he did after that miss, after the penalty. I mean, you could tell that this is a man that feels like he's been through this too many times already. I said it at the beginning of this live stream. I honestly missed seeing Tammy Abraham on this stage. I mean, Tammy Abraham in big games, he's a big time player. And Lukaku, so far in his experience at Roma, he's reminding me of the worst version of Lukaku with even with Inter, a guy who, in a well-oiled machine under good coach like Antonio Conte, in big games he'd have trouble being effective. Yeah, I don't have any word to describe the feeling about this team. It's nice when it works, when the moment's good. It's nice, guys. We have to cherish it because let's remember where we were at this time a month ago. And that's when you really understand and come to appreciate the moment we're in. Um, Thoughts on Karsdorp tonight? Well, him and Salik probably have the collective IQ of a duck or a turkey. So no, actually, no. Turkeys are very intelligent animals, although ugly. Um, so no. So not good, not good, not good. But I think it's come it's come to be expected by now. Would you start as Moon against the upcoming game as Torino? Absolutely, absolutely. Compared to this Lukaku, given how many minutes Lukaku has played in recent games, absolutely give us Moon his run. Give us Moon all the minutes he can get. Lukaku was bad and missed penalties. Zalewski was even worse, but handled the pressure, stepped up in most important moment. He said in an interview, he joked to staff that 4 offsides, he has to shoot the last pen. Yeah, it's again glad it did not derail, because for Zalewski, just being so Lukaku again. Look, there are players that are in a different circumstances. Lukaku is here on a part-time basis. He's I mean, he's not going to be here past this summer. I doubt it, highly doubt it. Zaleski is a homegrown product. The moment you put in a performance like the one he did tonight, and then you follow it up with a missed penalty, it would have destroyed your career. The Dybala and Lukaku still need to show more. Absolutely, I agree. Not good enough. I mean, just you've come to expect more. At least from a team that sort of advertises itself as the team that has Dybala and Lukaku, and obviously Mourinho's mantra, right? Of well, these are the big players that we have. They are the important ones. This is there. The team revolves around them. Well, right now we're seeing everybody else more or less perform to a really good level. I mean, you look at Pellegrini, you look at Sviar, you look at Gianluca Mancini, you look at even Cristante. I know, but and yet the ones that are performing more inconsistently actually are Lukaku and Dybala. I think they just have to find themselves again in this system that is completely different from what they were used to previously. I love this. I love the rebirth of Pellegrini. It's very good to see him back, back to this level, and also back with this reassurance that yes, he is important to the team. That is crucial, extremely crucial. Anyway, Roma can keep Tammy and Indica if they make Champions League. Financial fair play really doing its job in keeping competition from existing. Um, if they make Champions League, I think a lot of things change. I would not be able to tell you if Tammy and Indica are able to stay. I can't even tell you if they are going to leave if we don't make Champions League football. I don't know what Roma's plans are for Tammy. There's just too many question marks. I would imagine that if they were to qualify for Champions League, there would not be that need to sell for that big of a fee somebody like an Evan Dika. Um, I support Belgium, and what I'm seeing with this Lukaku is a PTSD flashback to the World Cup performances. Yeah, tonight was shocking for me. It was really rough to see him out there like that because again I don't know why, but I kept having flashbacks of Tammy Abraham performing in these situations and actually performing, even when he was not getting the ball, even when he was not getting the clean cut chances. He was effective. He was there for the team. Lukaku has been a bit all over the place and yet nowhere. You can hardly tell if he doesn't have a nightmare performance like this one tonight. Does it ever feel like we can't get the best version of Dybala and Pellegrini at the same time? I can't recollect it ever happening. No, I absolutely agree with you. That it's been the case for a number of players. I mean, if you think about the whole setup with when Zaniolo was here, and we all thought that it was going to be this amazing combination, and then nobody performed, or rather, you'd have a string of excellent performances by Dybala, but the Zaniolo and Pellegrini would be left behind. And I think there's just something that you have Dybala and Pellegrini are two players that the game has to center around them, or at least Dybala is the one that really benefits from it. And when it doesn't, he tends to drop off a bit. Doing well and still not playing up to full potential up front. Not bad. No, absolutely. That's the point, guys. That's the point. That's the big positive. That's the big positive. That's what we have to think about, and that's what De Rossi has to think about as a manager. Is there's still plenty to work on. It's not necessarily a bad thing. He stressed the importance of the mentality. He stressed the importance of maintaining good conditioning. These are things that will take time, obviously. Who knows if he manages to accomplish it within the next 3 months, three remaining months of the season? I really do not know. But what is obvious to me is that De Rossi recognizes that there is untapped potential, which cannot be said about Mourinho. Mourinho did not believe that it was untapped. I think Mourinho came to the conclusion that basically he had sort of figured out where the team is at. De Rossi hasn't, for better or worse, because maybe there can be a whole string of terrible results in our way, and we will find out what the team is made out of. Then we will find out what De Rossi is made out of. Then, but for now, to me, it's clear that we're talking about a manager who, through his lack of experience, is trying to make the best of all the ingredients that he has at his disposal. Whether the recipe is a success, we shall see at the end of the season. Um, Dybala's still good, but he looks scared to shoot, or he's not a good position to do so. We'll see again. Also, that aspect. What do we do now? Do we rely on Sardar Azmoun? What do we do with Romelu Lukaku in this moment in time? Do we keep putting him out there? Is he? Does the team want to be centered around the likes of Lukaku and Dybala, or perhaps this version of Roma doesn't? Perhaps this version of Roma wants to move away from that. These are all things that we can consider in this remainder of the season. But tonight, guys, finally we can have a proper reason to celebrate. I'm not saying that we didn't in the previous games, but obviously the magnitude of this and the whole feeling behind it, and obviously the opponent whom we've beaten for 3 years in a row, it's a fantastic feeling. It's not the feeling that we had, say, a month or two ago. So cherish it. This will be my closing statement for tonight's live stream. Cherish the moment, cherish the result. And I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me tonight. If you like what we do at Roma Press, please consider subscribing. And if you like what we do for the website, for the show, for the podcast, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/Roma Press. It helps us a lot. In John's name, John could not be here tonight. I could not record the podcast tonight with John. Other things got in the way. But in John's name, I want to thank each and every one of you for your support. It really means the world to us. In the meantime, guys, as always, Forza Roma, cherish the moment, and see you next time. Ciao.